Today, we're exposing the toxic cycle of covert narcissistic motherhood and the devastating impact of gaslighting and guilt tripping. If you've ever felt trapped in a never-ending cycle of manipulation and self-doubt, this episode is for you. Gaslighting and guilt tripping are common tactics used by narcissistic mothers, leaving you questioning your own reality and feeling like you're always falling short. If you've struggled to break free from this toxic cycle, know that you are not alone. As a survivor of narcissistic abuse and a certified neuro coach, I'll break down the tactics of gaslighting and guilt tripping and share practical strategies for recognizing and breaking free from this toxic cycle. By the end of this episode, you'll be empowered with the knowledge and tools to reclaim your reality and begin healing. Missing this episode means you risk remaining trapped in a toxic cycle of narcissistic motherhood, continuously doubting yourself and feeling guilty for wanting to break free.
Hi, I'm Cristy Murray, and I'm on a mission to help women that were raised by narcissistic mothers heal and grow. As a certified neuro coach specializing in narcissistic abuse recovery and a survivor of covert narcissistic upbringing, I'm sharing the tools and support you need to thrive and break the generational cycle of narcissistic abuse.
Gaslighting and guilt tripping are common tactics used by narcissistic mothers, creating a toxic cycle that leaves their children questioning reality and feeling trapped. In this episode, we'll take a deep dive into the toxic cycle of covert narcissistic motherhood, focusing on the manipulative tactics of gaslighting and guilt tripping. By understanding how these tactics work together to create a vicious cycle of abuse, you can break free from the manipulation and reclaim your reality. Here's a closer look at the toxic cycle of gaslighting and guilt tripping in covert narcissistic motherhood. The first step in a toxic cycle of covert narcissistic motherhood is gaslighting. This is the foundation of manipulation. By definition, gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation in which the abuser makes the victim question their own reality, their memories, and their perceptions. Here are examples in covert narcissistic motherhood: denying events or conversations that you clearly remember, minimizing or dismissing your feelings and experiences, rewriting history to paint themselves in a better light or make you doubt your own recollections. And here are the impacts on the victim: erosion of self-trust and confidence in one's own judgment. You constantly second-guess yourself, and you constantly have self-doubt. You have difficulty making decisions or trusting your own instincts. Here's one example. Your mother denies making a hurtful comment, even though you clearly remember it. When you try to address the issue, she accuses you of being overly sensitive and imagining things. The second step in the toxic cycle of covert narcissistic motherhood is guilt tripping, which is the reinforcement of control. So by definition, guilt tripping is a manipulative tactic used to make the victim feel responsible for the abuser's emotions, for the abuser's needs or actions. Here are examples in covert narcissistic motherhood: making you feel guilty for setting boundaries or prioritizing your own needs. 2 is using emotional blackmail to control your behavior or decisions. 3 is playing the victim or martyr to elicit sympathy and compliance. And how does this impact the victim, in many cases you? You get an overwhelming sense of obligation and responsibility for your mother's well-being. You may have difficulty asserting your own needs and desires, and you may have constant feelings of guilt and inadequacy. Here's an example. If your mother constantly guilts you into prioritizing her needs over your own, saying things like, "After everything I've done for you, the least you could do is spend more time with me." Another example is when your mother rewrites history to make herself look like the victim, claiming that she never had any help or support from you, even though you've been there for her countless times. Now let's talk about the interplay between the toxic cycle of gaslighting and guilt tripping. So gaslighting sets the stage by making the victim doubt their own reality and judgment. And then comes guilt tripping, which then reinforces the manipulation by exploiting the victim's self-doubt and sense of obligation. The cycle then repeats, with each tactic strengthening the other and making it harder for the victim to break free. Now let's talk about breaking the cycle. Here are some strategies for overcoming gaslighting and guilt tripping. One tactic to overcome gaslighting and guilt tripping is to recognize the tactics. Learn to identify gaslighting and guilt tripping in real time and label them as manipulation rather than reality. Another tactic is for you to trust your instincts. You give yourself permission to trust your own perceptions, your own memories and feelings, even though your mother tries to undermine them. Another tactic is to set and enforce boundaries. Clearly communicate your boundaries and stick to them, even in the face of guilt tripping or emotional blackmail. Also practice self-compassion. Be kind and understanding with yourself as you navigate the challenges of breaking free from this toxic cycle. Also seek support. Surround yourself with people who validate your experiences and provide a reality check when needed. Breaking free from the toxic cycle of gaslighting and guilt tripping is a process that requires patience. It requires self-compassion and support. By learning to recognize these manipulative tactics, trusting your own instincts, and setting firm boundaries, you can begin to reclaim your reality and break the hold of covert narcissistic motherhood. Remember, your experiences are valid, and you deserve to live a life free from manipulation and control. Now that you understand the toxic cycle of gaslighting and guilt tripping in covert narcissistic motherhood, you might be wondering how to apply this knowledge to your own life. Many people who have experienced this toxic cycle struggle to identify the signs and break free from the manipulation, and need guidance to develop effective strategies for reclaiming their reality. That's why I've created the Breaking the Toxic Cycle of Narcissistic Motherhood quiz. This quiz is designed to help you assess your experiences with gaslighting and guilt tripping and provide personalized recommendations for breaking free and beginning your healing journey. By taking this quiz, you'll gain a clearer understanding of how the toxic cycle has impacted your life and receive a customized action plan with practical strategies for setting boundaries, for trusting your instincts, and prioritizing your well-being. Don't let the opportunity to reclaim your reality and break free from manipulation pass you by. To get started, simply click on the link in the show notes and take the Breaking the Toxic Cycle of Narcissistic Motherhood quiz. It only takes a few minutes, and you'll be on your way to a more empowered and authentic life. Now let's talk about one juicy bonus tip. One effective way to counter gaslighting is to keep a journal of your actions with your narcissistic mother. Write down what was said, how you felt, and any manipulative tactics you noticed. This helps you maintain a clear record of reality and can be a powerful tool in validating your experiences and breaking free from the cycle of self-doubt. Before we go, I want to remind you to check out the valuable resources we've compiled for you in the show notes, designed to support you on your healing journey. If you found this episode helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating or review, as it helps us reach more daughters who need to hear these important messages. We also invite you to share your own experiences, insights, and questions with us by emailing the show, as we believe that by coming together and sharing our stories, we can create a powerful community of healing and validation for all daughters of narcissistic mothers. Thank you for tuning in to Maternal Narcissism Unmasked, how daughters can heal and thrive. Remember, you are not alone in this journey, and with each step, you are reclaiming your power and breaking free from the chains of narcissistic abuse.